It's playoff baseball time, everyone. Welcome back to the J All Day Sports Show. I got a great video lined up for you guys today. We're talking Mets and the Phillies, the NL Division Series. I'm going to give you my picks, my predictions, who wins this series, and how. I cannot wait for this. I bet you Chase Utley is at home, foaming out the mouth, thinking about playing in this series. We all know how much he hates the Mets. We know how much the Mets fans hate the Phillies and how much the Phillies fans want to absolutely massacre all the Mets fans. I cannot wait for this series. It's Red October time, everyone. Let's get into it. It's pretty obvious where my allegiance lies in this series, but I'm going to give you the most unbiased prediction for this series on YouTube. I'm going to break down all the starting pitching matchups for the first couple games because the rest of them have not been announced quite yet, because the Mets played a 3-game series, so their starting rotation is kind of a bit of a mess. They're going to have to reset it in Game 2 and kind of figure it out as it goes, depending on if it's a must-win game or not. I used to be a feature columnist for Bleacher Report covering the Philadelphia Phillies, right? So I love this team. I love this franchise. And there is no better series than playing the Mets. For the first time in either of these franchise history, we are playing a Mets Philadelphia Phillies playoff series. There's been plenty of series between these two teams, but never in the playoffs. The Phillies won 7, the Mets won 6 of these games in 2024, so it's extremely even, guys. And as we break down some of these numbers, listen to this. Runs per game for both teams: 4.84 for the Phillies, 4.74 for the Mets. That's 5th and 7th place respectively. Starting pitching ERA, 3.81 for the Phillies, 3.91 for the Mets. You can't get much more even than this. Even though the Phillies number is a little skewed because Taijuan Walker was an abomination this year. He might have been the worst starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. So this number is actually a little bit lower, but you win some, you lose some, right? And then relief pitchers ERA, 3.94 for the Phillies, 4.03 for the Mets, 14th and 17th in Major League Baseball. These teams are unbelievably even when you look at the numbers, guys. It's really crazy, right? A lot of fun. So the Phillies pitchers who are going to be starting in this series, it's going to be Wheeler, Game 1, Christopher Sanchez in Game 2, and then in Game 3, we're going to have Aaron Nola, right? So we've got to figure out who's going to pitch well and who's not going to pitch well, right? I think the Phillies are locked to win Game 1, right? Zach Wheeler against Cody Senga. Senga hasn't really pitched at all this year. I think he's been hurt. He hasn't pitched. I think he pitched 1 game all regular season. Now you got to go against the Phillies at the bank in Red October. Good luck, bro. I think the Phillies take Game 1. And then Christopher Sanchez, it's a really interesting matchup against Luis Severino because Sanchez pitched really good 2 games and then he got shelled 1 game. The first game, 5.2 innings, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 5 Ks. Then we have a 7-inning outing, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 7 Ks. And then 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 5 walks, 7 Ks. So in 2 home starts versus the Mets this year, 2.21 earned run average. Very impressive. And Rob Thompson, the head coach of the Phillies, saw this and didn't want Aaron Nola in Game 2. He wants Sanchez because he pitched a lot better at home versus the Mets than he did on the road. And then Aaron Nola has a ton of playoff experience. He was extremely dominant last year. He only gave up 6 earned runs in 4 starts last year, a 2.35 ERA in the playoffs in 2023. Aaron Nola was extremely dominant in the playoffs last year, and I look for that to continue, even though he did struggle a little bit in September. So I think this time off is really going to help Aaron Nola, so we'll have to see how that all shakes out, guys. I'm really excited for this series. Game 1, 4:08 Eastern on Saturday. Game 2, 4:08 Eastern time, October 6th. And then they have a day off on Monday. Then October 8th, the series starts with the Mets in New York, right? So Aaron Nola is booked to start Game 3. The Mets have yet to announce their starters for Games 3, 4, and 5. I'm assuming maybe we get Ranger Suarez in game 4. He pitched pretty good against the Mets this year, but I'm not really sure about that. But I think they might just roll out Zach Wheeler on short notice, man. Try to get that W. All right, so now we're going to do a position-by-position breakdown of this series. Mets, Phillies, who has the advantages where, right? All right, baseball fans, we're going to start off with catcher first. Francisco Alvarez versus JT Realmuto. I'm going with JT Realmuto. He's just the better overall player. He's more consistent. He throws out runners really well. Alvarez really struggled in the wild card round. 1 for 11. Absolutely terrible, man. He did have a .594 OPS in the second half of the season. Not very good, considering it was .844 in the first half. JT Realmuto has been consistent all year long. He comes up with big hits. He puts the ball in play a lot. He's got a little bit of pop in that bat, but not so much home run pop, more gap power nowadays. I'm going with the Phillies and JT Realmuto. First base, Pete Alonso versus Bryce Harper, right? Pete Alonso had that incredible 3-run home run to propel the Mets to victory in the wild card round. Without that hit, there's only 2 outs left. The Mets go home, and then it's Phillies Brewers. But coming up with big hits. But who's more clutch in the playoffs than Bryce Harper? No one. Bryce Harper is an incredible player. Alonso is a good player, don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? He's a top 5 first baseman in Major League Baseball. He's just not Bryce Harper. I'm going Bryce Harper for the advantage here. Second base, we got Bryson Stott, who's really struggled for the Phillies, right? Iglesias, he's been a spark plug in this lineup, hitting .337 in limited playing time, you know what I mean? But Bryson Stott has pretty much struggled all year round, guys. He has not been very good this year. He has definitely regressed mightily, right? Both of these guys are definitely not superstars, but I would probably go with the Mets here if I had a gun to my head, right? So, third base, Alec Bohm had a really, really good year, man. It's a close battle. Alec Bohm made the All-Star team this year. He cooled off a little bit, especially in the last 24 games, only 196 and a .501 OPS, but he still finished the year 44 doubles, 97 runs batted in. That's great. Vientos, he enjoyed a breakout season for the Mets, 27 home runs, 837 OPS. He had a great year, Vientos. It's neck and neck, man. Over the scope of the season, you got to go Alec Bohm, but man, Vientos has been extremely hot down the stretch. I might go Mets here. I might go Mets, a little different from this article, right? And then at the shortstop position, we got Trey Turner versus Francisco Lindor, right? Lindor, he's an MVP candidate, perennial. He's very, very talented. Trey Turner has had ups and downs this year. I think Lindor is just a better player. He's a little bit better of a hitter, a little bit better of a fielder, in my opinion. Let's see what this article says. Yeah, they say the Mets, and I have to agree with that. I think Lindor is just a better player. I'd rather have him on my roster. Next up, left field for the Phillies. It's like a platoon-ish situation with Kyle Schwarber, Austin Hayes, and Brandon Marsh. But Brandon Nimmo, he's just pesky, man. That's the perfect word to describe Brandon Nimmo. He gets on base a lot, 23 home runs, you know what I mean? He's just a pesky guy, runs out every single play. He's a great hustler. I mean, it says Mets here, but Kyle Schwarber, I don't know if he's going to DH or play left field. We'll have to see how they kind of platoon this situation. But Austin Hayes has played really good defense, and Brandon Marsh is a great defender as well. All right, so now we move on to center field. It says Tyrone Taylor started all 3 games in center field for the Mets in the wild card series, and Harrison Bader finished all 3 with Taylor sliding over to right. Both are very good defenders, right? Johan Rojas for the Phillies, he's known more for his defense than his offense. He's going to be the 9-hole hitter pretty much always. He's got a gold glove, but he can't hit at all. We got to go Mets here. Right field, Nick Castellanos played 162 games this year, earning that monster paycheck that he got. But Castellanos is either mashing the ball or he's MIA. What Nick Castellanos are we going to get in this series? We really do not know. And then for the Mets, 13-year veteran Sterling Marte important piece, but he is 35 years of age, right? So they need a big series out of him if the Mets want to get past the Phillies. I'm going with the Phillies and Nick Castellanos here, right? DH, JD Martinez, and Jesse Winker, they're the guys splitting time. And then Schwarber, 20 career postseason home runs. Schwarbombs is taking this all day. JD's super old. Schwarber takes it. Obviously, the Phillies rotation is better than the Mets. That's not just because I'm a big Phillies fan, but you got Zach Wheeler, Cy Young candidate with Chris Sale, Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, Aaron Nola. They're just exceptionally talented starting pitchers, right? The Mets, they're okay. Luis Severino and company, they're pretty good. But they're not the Philadelphia Phillies starting rotation. They don't have that Zach Wheeler that can come in and dominate and probably pitch twice in a 5-game series, 3 times in a 7-game series, and just absolutely dominate. I think the bullpens are pretty even, a lot of inconsistency, but the Phillies added some guys towards the end of the year who's going to close for them. Very good player. They got rid of Soto and Sir Anthony Dominguez. Estevez has been great since coming over from the Angels. And then Matt Strahm, the lefty, has been unhittable. Jeff Hoffman, I like. Orion Kirkring's very good as well. Edwin Diaz is the cream of the crop for the Mets. The Phillies take it here. So, what is my prediction? I think the Phillies win this in 4 games. Maybe 3 games. It all depends on that game to start. If Christopher Sanchez can come out and deal like he did at home this year against the Mets twice and that 2.2 and change ERA, the Phillies could potentially sweep this series, but I think it's going to go 4 games. Phillies win it 3-1 in Game 4 in New York, and they move on again to the National League Championship Series. Dodgers and the Padres. I'm thinking the Padres move past the Dodgers, and we got the Padres and the Phillies, baby. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. Let me know in the comments below, how do you think this series plays out? Are you rooting for the Phillies? Are you rooting for the Mets? And who do you think wins this NL Division Series between the Phillies and the Mets? The first time ever these two franchises are facing each other in the playoffs. I'm geeked about it. It's time for Red October. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. We'll catch you guys on the next video.